In today's episode, I sit down with Manon de Veritch, a former tech entrepreneur who now works at the intersection of energy, healing, and human connection. At Beats Working, we spend a lot of time exploring what happens when the work we've built no longer fits and what it takes to follow something we don't fully understand yet. Manon shares her journey from designing complex technology systems to helping people navigate something far less visible, despite it being impactful. In both worlds, the work has always been the same, translating complexity into something people can use. It's a conversation about transformation and trust, how learning to follow what you can't yet prove.
Welcome to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Work, hosted by Dan T. Rogers. This show invites you into conversations that go deeper than job titles and hustle. It's about rethinking what work is for and how we can design it to serve our lives, rather than the other way around. Here, we'll talk with leaders, makers, and thinkers who are doing more than earning a paycheck. They're getting paid to practice life.
Well, Manon, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I love being here.
Yeah. So I sort of hope that maybe some folks either know who you are or maybe, they cyber stalked you a little bit and know a little bit about you. But for those folks that haven't done that yet, maybe a little bit of an introduction, and I think you can go wherever you want with it. And I may or may not ask some more questions because we obviously know each other a little bit. So yeah. Yeah. How would you like to introduce
tell me if I miss anything important.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the broad strokes are that I am a recovering technologist and tech entrepreneur turned energy healer and sex and intimacy coach. So I focus on working with midlife women, helping them guide them from burnout to purpose, which is essentially helping them through what I have come through over the last 5 or 6 years.
All right. Well, there's certainly plenty to talk about in where you're at now. But because I know you, I also have my own genuine interest in just making sure I know a little bit more of the story. Maybe tell us about how you became a recovering technologist. What led to becoming a technologist?
Oh, so way back.
Yeah.
I always was very left brain, very linear, science driven, and I really enjoyed being on the cutting edge of what was coming out in technology. I was a tech. It's been called a few things over the years, right? But back in the day, I was essentially what's now considered an infrastructure architect. So I would help businesses design what technologies that they needed to use or wanted to use, and then what suppliers to use. But I would work for a manufacturer selling network equipment first and foremost, and then working for a technology service integrator. And then I went into the data center space. And then when co-location became a really big deal, I was a data center specialist for one of the two biggest companies in the .com boom. So that really catapulted my career and secured me as a data center nerd. And then with the onset of cloud, when that came out, and
I'm actually going to, if we can pause for just a second, because I think one of the reasons why, maybe it's super easy to go to sex and intimacy and like everyone to be like, there's 1,000 questions to go there, and we'll get there. But we're talking data centers before like anybody really knew what they were. Like you knew what they were, right? Because now like everyone hears about them and all that because of all the AI, pull on it. But it's not just that you're at the cutting edge. I mean, I think you were early on something that now maybe the rest of us were 10 or 15 years behind you, even knowing that it existed. So maybe talk a little bit about what that was like to be there. And I know that we just live in a perfect world. So being a woman probably didn't have any sort of impacts any of those conversations or that. So, I think there might be stuff there was interesting for folks. And I'm clearly convinced that you've been doing the same thing the whole time. And, and that your world-class experience for 20 plus years is also directly related to the last 5 years or 5 to 10 years of expertise that you've added as well. So that's a little bit of my angle on the questioning. We'll see if I'm right.
That's so interesting that you picked up on, like,
And I reserve the right that I don't know your story well enough, and I've connected stuff that doesn't connect, but let's see if it does. Yeah.
I think that you're fantastic when it comes to connecting dots and putting patterns together that took me a lot longer to see than you have taken to see. So with that in mind, let me just say that as I look back on my career, I really recognize now the parts of me that were really driven and rewarded for being a technology sales executive, because I felt like I wasn't a salesy person, but I really always loved the consultative aspect of it and bringing new things to the world and evangelizing them and really educating them on what they could start to use and have as IT leaders in this context. That's going to make them not only their life better and their companies more competitive, but also help them elevate their status and climb the ladder. So I've always sort of been the person behind the scenes, feeding them some guidance on what's new in the market, what's cutting edge, what the rest of the market is actually doing, what their competitors are doing, and then helping them supply them with what they need so that they can actually look really good and have successful implementations and move the needle. And you know, something that's been thrown around for a while, I don't know if it's cliche to say at this point, but to have a seat at the table, because IT traditionally has not. It's always just sort of been this cost center for people. And it still is in a lot of businesses, but I really appreciated elevating the IT leadership to have business conversations so that they could actually put themselves in a position where they're offering how technology can create a competitive advantage and how people can scale globally and look at these things and manage everything that they have.
Well, what's interesting is I wonder, and I don't mean this flippantly, I mean this actually really, really seriously. I wonder how many people or how many groups actually get a seat at the table, period. You know what I mean? Like, I think historically there was probably like one dude, white, that maybe looked a lot like me, that was just making the call, and like that was the table. Because, you know, I mean, marketers don't feel like they had a seat. I mean, like, everyone doesn't feel like, I'm like, well, is there a table? I mean, so, and I think it maybe just talks about how corporate leadership makes decisions in silos from ivory towers in many cases. And maybe not so much, hopefully less today than before, but I think I had heard you say that before, but I forgot about that. And it's definitely one of those patterns. And I'm not discounting it. I think it's a real thing. That's why maybe leadership is getting better, about bringing more people and getting more perspectives at the decision. But so, I'm going to ask some sort of nerdy questions.
Oh, please.
But so, and I definitely and we'll get into how you sort of made the IT professional look better inside their company. But what did the technology do, maybe from not too technical level, but what was the technology doing to actually help the company be better or more competitive? Like, what was sort of the value add there?
Well, you know, as technologies continue to reinvent themselves and get better and faster and cheaper, a lot of what's happening is the security is being built into the network, for example. So the firewalls can now be in the network that you're buying, and then the cost of the bandwidth is also coming down. So you're getting the variables of the things that are getting commoditized, where there are a bunch of carriers fighting for your business and a lot of fiber in the ground all of a sudden, and all these new bigger bandwidth technologies coming up for the backbone that's making all of your cost per megabyte go down. But then you're also getting these new suppliers that are coming to market that are taking things that you used to have to piece part and layer them together in a new way. And so, of course, also with the onset of of cloud, which really just means the way that you're buying the service is per user per month, or it's essentially operationalized or modernized IT. So people that have made these big capital investments and then paying for an HR or paying for a payroll or headcount to manage it, and then paying for maintenance fees, and then you're just beholden to the manufacturer for everything. Now you're moving to a model where there's either the manufacturer has just sold it as a seat per month and has folded in the hardware and software and the maintenance and the management into it, which is much more agile. But also you have managed service providers that are owning all of the engineering talent that you would otherwise have to go and win and keep, which is incredibly difficult in this world where there are, Amazon and Google and Microsoft engineers that are, writing their own ticket, and then you're kind of beholden to them and their vacation schedules and whether they want to leave and try to renegotiate their price. So all of a sudden, I've started introducing managed service providers that the companies could go to for any kind of public cloud that they're using, or frankly, any private cloud that they want to buy. And I'm crossing things here, but that's a really big way that companies are saving money, is just operationalizing and outsourcing and finding companies that are doing more for less so that they don't have to be spending the money managing people that are just keeping the lights on. They can actually be repurposed for things that are specific to the applications or how things are being delivered or innovated.
Okay. So, and obviously we're talking about a pretty good chunk of time, because you were sort of reflecting on all of the past, or at least that chunk of your past. And not only is it a decent chunk of time, but there's also a massive amount of change. So I might be over simplifying this, but let me see if I sort of grokked what you were saying. So we had a person inside of a company that was responsible for making these decisions, some of them quite expensive, all of them with massive exposure. Like, so even if they aren't expensive, it's just security, right? Like, so that's all, right? Right. So high risk buys in a very dynamic marketplace. Is that, and so they not only have to be sort of technically sound and understand what their company's trying to do, but then also understand the environment that they're supposed to go shop in, for lack of a better word, that's sort of changing constantly. Is that a little bit of what was happening?
Yeah, maybe let me put it a different way. So IT has always been in this really delicate position of being responsible for all of the systems and the infrastructure that's keeping the business up and live and receiving income. But they also traditionally have not been involved in business decisions about where the budget's going, where the expansion's going. And with the rise of cloud, which came like 2017, 18, 19, that was like kind of the onset of it, where people started saying like, you got to get some cloud. I need some cloud. You got to get some, like, nobody knew what that was. So when I had an opportunity to start my own business, I specifically wanted to be the one that had those conversations with people to help them understand what that actually meant. Because in my data center career, I was already working with that. We were just using different words for it, right? Things have gone from application service providers to managed service providers to now cloud and infrastructure as a service and everything as a service. So the takeaway, though, is that I was the one that would just sit in the meetings and say, what do you actually have? What are you trying to do? Let me gather up all of your options that are available to you in the market, and I can help you understand who's a good fit from a business and a technical and also a cultural perspective. So I was sitting between the buyer and the seller and functioning as what's now referred to as an IT trusted advisor, because there's no way that IT teams can stay on top of the massive amounts of technologies that are coming online, but also the M&A that's happening in the market, and try to get any kind of leverage when it comes to pricing and terms, because everybody's paying all different things for the same stuff.
True. And then made worse that they're also, so I don't know that I articulate it well, but I think I'm definitely tracking what you're saying. So, we have an IT professional in the company that may or may not have a big title, but at least historically didn't have, and not that they were, I mean, they were technically proficient. That's why they have their job. They may or may not be quote unquote business proficient. Whereas you're going up against a VP of sales that knows how to close deals and gets people to say yes. Like that's what, I mean, that's a hard argument, you know, or the vice president of marketing or vice president of whatever. And made worse that sort of their technical expertise at what they're great at is also changing constantly. So this sort of, what I'm sort of envisioning in my head is they're trying to act as the coordinator to coordinate internal systems with the external systems, but not necessarily with any influence to pick either one potentially, right?
They were being told how many servers they needed, how much storage they needed. It was just purely a downhill conversation.
Yeah.
And the trick with the speak and asking, so like conversely though, when they would have an ask of something that they would need or new software that they would want to bring in, they were presenting it as here's what it does and here's how much it costs. It was never about how implementing this is going to have an ROI on the actual business and revenues. Yeah. So it was that was the nuance for me when I created Nuvalo, was to help them actually figure out how to have business conversations around IT so that they could actually get what they need. And then with the rise of cloud and cybersecurity, now these are the people that are being really held accountable for the uptime, right? So if anything happens, they're the ones that are getting the mass exposure. And
so I think what I'm hearing is, and the words that are sort of coming to mind is sort of translator, coordinator, advisor, consultant. I mean, there's a lot, I mean, depending on what sort of which facet of the diamond we focus on, it's like, oh, well, it's more of the translator here, it's more of the advisor there. But when you sort of roll all of that together, what you're helping people do is simplify complexity, right? Like, I mean, no?
Yeah.
I mean, both internal and external. And look, if it was just external, there'd be more than enough. I mean, I don't pretend to understand the tech market, and but I've lived through a lot of it. Like, it's more than a full-time job to just try to keep up. I mean, we can experience that now with AI, right? So to have somebody who's like, yeah, now I got a pretty good idea of what's going on, that would be incredibly valuable. Then it's like, oh, and by the way, I can help you speak the language that the rest of your company speaks as well, right? Like, or like, how about we talk about this in a way that will, resonate with them, or make it easier for them to say yes. Or so I think that's very similar to what you're doing now. Potentially. No?
Yeah.
Are we seeing any parallels now?
The biggest parallel that I noticed and had to laugh was that because I love to be at the forefront of these new technologies and evangelizing things that people don't know about yet, more so than just geeking out about what it is that I'm selling. I really love being the one that's helping people realize how their lives could be easier or better. And it was probably a couple of years ago when I just put together the fact that, like, 15 years ago, I was trying to sell an invisible service to people that knew that they needed it, but they didn't know what it meant to them and how to consume it. But they knew they needed to get some.
Yeah.
They were being told to get some, and it meant something different to everybody. And then fast forward to now, where I've created aligned energy healing, and I'm once again offering up something that's invisible,
Mm-hmm.
that everybody knows that they have energy, and they know that it's important to know how to use it. And there's a whole bunch of energy medicine modalities, that include things that they've heard of, like yoga and qigong and acupuncture and breathwork. And then there's a whole bunch of things that they haven't. But they don't know which one is right for them. They don't know which one's really going to help them. If they really feel like they're in a health crisis, that might not be the first place that they go to. But once again, here I am evangelizing something before it's crossed the chasm, so to speak, and everybody's an adopter. I really believe that in the next 5 years, with everything that's going on in the healthcare industry, healthcare in quotes, people are just looking for any possible way that they can feel better, because they've just been so gaslit and told to take pills, and they're just going to have to live with it. That people are really starting to seek out things that are working, that they're hearing their friends saying is working. And at a minimum, it feels better. You feel better. You might not immediately see something, but there's this rise of awareness about quantum mechanics and all of the ways that there can be distance healing, and how energy can heal imbalances, which then allow the body to heal itself. So my point is, once again, I'm here evangelizing an invisible service that I really believe is going to help them have better lives, help them feel more empowered, help them just take their power back and be more sovereign. I've really come to realize that that's my through line, is empowerment and self-sovereignty. I think that we've outsourced our healing. We've outsourced feeling good. It's just our go-to through our programming to think that somebody else is going to be on the other side of us getting what we need. And you're the first person to know that we have so much divinity that we've been programmed out of, that if we just start tapping into it, I think people will be very surprised how much they can heal themselves, and how much we already can tell ourselves what we need.
Yeah, no, and I just hear so many parallels in it. And, I think it's easy for people to oversimplify tech and overinflate nature, and vilify tech and whatever, exemplify nature. And I mean, these are all, in my opinion, there's just all preferences, but so to me, there's like an organic thing, and almost everything else is technology. And so a lot of, almost everything that we use is technology, if we really think about it. Right. And so, then it's just like, well, what period of time are we talking about in terms of like what it really does or doesn't look like? But I think there's no, to me, it sounds very, very similar, that you're helping people that are looking for a way to be closer to their purpose, right? The IT professional was like, but I have this very dynamic marketplace that I have to go shop in. Like, there's all these options, right? But even when I get the right one, or I think is the right one, then I got to figure out how to integrate it or sell it. And in this case, which I think is interesting, maybe we can talk about this, like, what's it like? You're not a salesperson. I'm not asking you to sell it, but what have you sort of witnessed as people try to sell themselves on this stuff? Because I don't want to oversimplify it, and I certainly am not trying to belittle it or anything like that, but I think it's fairly reasonable for some percentage of us. It's like, energy work, come on, man, like whatever. So but as you shared earlier, it's amazing how willing we get when the industrial health complex has no answer for us. Then it's like, okay, well, maybe I come a little bit more receptive and a little bit more whatever. So what have you sort of either witnessed that in your own self and with other people, in terms of maybe to say it a little nicer, maybe the sort of deprogramming of looking outside for something that might already be inside?
I feel like we are so in our heads all the time. That's just how we're that's how we have to be. And we just get so spun up and disconnected from what's down here. But I find that even after the first experience of doing any kind of energy healing modality, anything that just pulls you out of your head into your heart and invites you to feel something, just notice what you're noticing, experience what you're experiencing, the lights instantly go on for people. And my very favorite thing is quite literally to watch their eyes when they're like, what was that? What just happened? What did you do to me?
Yeah.
That was the craziest thing. I can't even explain it.
Yeah.
But you just only need to have one small experience to just make you want to start having more experiences, right? It's that feeling that we're so disconnected from is that feeling of joy and harmony and passion and open-heartedness and all of these things that are really our natural state of being, but we just don't live in a world like that. Everything, there's all this stress that's layered on top that's blocking our access to that and keeping us up here. But if we just through very simple breath and just having a moment and maybe some guided direction, I think people start having immediate experiences, which becomes addictive because they're like, oh my gosh, now I have a way to actually feel good and know that I brought myself there, you know? And this is probably a good time to explain the premise of energy medicine or energy healing. It's the concept that our bodies are these beautifully complex vessels that are designed to heal themselves. So long as they're in balance and harmony, whether you're talking about the chakras as an energy system, the meridians, you know, being cleared of any blocks, that's another energy system, or just physiologically, and just everything is clear, the body will heal itself.
I'm gonna pause this for just a second, and I'm gonna let you get back to it in just a second. But I think maybe that's something that's easier for some people to hear and grok, and it might be harder for others. And so I just want to pause people because I've had my own experience with this. And if you actually think about it and just reflect on it for just more than a split second, it's like, how else would it be designed? Forget who designed it or what designed it. Like, we start off, I don't want to get too graphic, but we start off as a very, very small organism, and all of this happens. So the idea that it can't heal itself, it's like it does way cooler things than heal itself. I mean, you know, like, I lost my hair, but it's doing things that healing would be right in range with everything else that we have undeniable firsthand experience with, right? So it's not like, oh my God, when you cut yourself, it heals, your body heals itself, right? So it's not, this is not some woo-woo, crazy, like metaphysical, this is like practical. By the grace of the boss, every single person who has heard this has already experienced it countless times. So I just want to pause people and say, so what Manon is talking about here is not, she's just taking it maybe to a deeper level than we've thought about it, but we've seen surface on our skin. We've all experienced this, right? So I just wanted, because that's easy to just sort of, and then I'm going to debate it later with myself about whether or not my body can heal myself. No, it can. Like, to what scale we can maybe argue about, but there's no question it's well within its function to be able to heal itself.
There are a number of directions that I could go from there.
Yeah.
I think what I do want to capture though is the fact that when we're talking about energy healing, energy medicine, you're talking about vibration and you're talking about frequency. So I think it's really important just to start with the fact that our cells vibrate, everything vibrates in our body. The fact that we measure our heart with an EKG and we use EEGs, we use, MRIs, they're all measuring resonance and frequency and electricity. We actually have a negative charge at our feet terminal. We have a positive terminal at our crown. We are electromagnetic, and we are big bodies filled with salt, water. Everything electric has a field, and every field is influenced by frequencies. So if you start to think about the frequencies that you're marinating in on a day-to-day basis, and let's just think of some frequencies, right? It's not just what you can hear and what you can see, sound and light. We're talking about colors, emotions, smells, material of your clothing, people's facial expressions, emotions. I mean, just walking around somebody that's feeling sad, you can feel it. So, I mean, every single thing has a frequency and a vibration to it. And when you think that we're trying to maintain our own field and what's going on in here and optimize it for wellness and balance, but then you also need to just start being aware of how to keep yourself protected from other people's frequencies and vibrations that, might not be in your best interest. So I really like to just start by talking about the fact that we are electric, the concept of electric health. I've been very influenced and guided by Eileen McCusick's work. She's the founder of Biofield Tuning, and she's written a lot about our electric health. And I feel like that's such a great place to start, because if you're not understanding, appreciating that, then none of the rest of this is going to make sense. It really is. We are at a point now where the things that we already know to be true in energy the technology is caught up, and it's provable now.
I'm glad that you went there. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to pause and just say practical experience. Like, it's undeniable that the body will heal itself. We wouldn't be here if it didn't. And then I love what you just walked through with all of the electrical energy, because people can decide whatever they want, right? but that to me, and it's not even it's sort of just a matter of fact, right? So it's like, well, you can decide how far you want to take this, but if you don't want to consider it, don't be surprised if it turns out that your vibration is having a bigger impact than you want to. I mean, I don't know. I'm just blown away by my own arrogance. Like, somehow I think, well, if I just don't like these ideas, they're not going to apply to me. Right. And then occasionally I run into other people and I hear them talk, and I'm like, oh gosh, you're like me. You think it matters if you like the idea, if it's real. Right. It's think
about the fact that we've got all these EMF frequencies around us that we're swimming in. Like, you can't deny that those are impacting people, and that once people start putting protections like these hats, or like, you can measure the difference. You can measure what's coming off your phone and your screens.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me that's not impacting you.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think it'll be interesting. I think there'll be a whole group of people who will be far more receptive to this because they got the information later, right? When there's just so much more. It will almost be presented in a completely different context, right? As opposed to, it's like, this is everything that's been said for a very, very long time, but gosh, now you believe it, that it has, we can measure a wave of something, right? So
yeah. Well, and the thought about the correlation with cloud and cloud computing too was just that, I think the early adopters are jumping all over it because they understand it, but the vast majority of people, they aren't going to do it till everybody else is doing it. Yeah. I feel like that's where we are right now with energy healing. I think that there is a very quickly growing number of people that are trying it out and adopting it and even seeking it out. People are finding me through Googling energy healing. So there are people that are knowing and are ready and are talking about it. But I feel like in the next I'm just going to say 5 years is my prediction. I think it's going to cross the chasm, and I think everybody's going to be like, of course I have an energy healer. Who wouldn't have an energy healer? Like, it would be ridiculous not to have an energy healer. Why would I go to the urgent care for something that I could just, do myself and in another more holistic, natural way? Why would I spend my time and energy and money going and asking somebody else what they think when they don't know how I'm wired or what my constitution's all about? We're not all the same. So we are so close.
What are, because I feel I've told you this before we ever got here, but like I feel like I've been exposed to some that I have absolutely no idea. I'm beyond confident that there's, way more that I'm have absolutely no awareness to than the little bit that I've seen. But if you were going to start trying to talk about the different modalities inside of energy healing, what does that start to sound and look like?
So yoga, somatic breath work, Tai Chi, Qigong, acupuncture, acupressure, reflexology. And then you start getting into more of what I'm talking about, which is Reiki, which is universal energy, universal life force, I should say. That's working with the chakra system to balance and harmonize each one. There's a shamanic Reiki where you actually can work with elements of nature and spirit guides and do some cord cutting and things like that. There's also
what is cord cutting? I don't know that I know what that is.
Cord cutting is the concept that because we're all energetically attached, there might be other people's or energies, cords that you're connected to that you're ready to not be. And so as part of energy hygiene, it's an awareness that you're being intentional about cutting anything that's not yours, or releasing what's not yours, and then cutting off what other people are trying to attach to you. It comes up quite frequently with relationships.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I find that it can also apply to like businesses.
Oh, sure.
Frankly,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Because your business is an energetic entity. Yeah. So we can tune that too.
So acupuncture is something, I think I told you this story before. It was one of those things where I definitely had an aha moment, but I wasn't so much doubtful as just lazy and bullheaded. But I had low back issues, and I just did my best to sort of muscle through it. I mean, it wasn't, and then I got to a place where it was just completely unbearable, and I wasn't willing to turn to the pain med stuff. And, so I went to acupuncture just because, I don't want to share too many of my opinions, but it just seemed like, well, that's as reasonable as anything else at this point. And I think the first session was like 20 minutes and they took everything out, and I got up, and they didn't realize virtually every other time I've gone, they like cautioned me not to get up quickly. I got up quickly and almost completely fell over. Because I didn't realize like what had happened. Some stuff had definitely been moved around, like for sure. I think when you described that earlier, I'm hopeful that as people hear this, that either between just, to me, sort of the matter of factness of like this, it's not even, other than the word, the only thing that's sort of out there is the word energy itself. The rest of it is all like, gosh, this is just what we're doing all day long. So what are you, how would you encourage somebody if they're a little bit more like me, where they're like, I think I could be receptive, but I'm also really, really ignorant. Where would they, because it's obviously not, we haven't crossed the chasm yet.
So where to start of each of of any of the modalities? Oh my goodness.
Or where would they even begin their own journey to try to figure out where to go?
Well, you really can't go wrong. There's not a bad decision. I think that everybody I encourage everybody to just try whatever you feel called to. Maybe there's something that just keeps coming up. Like you just keep hearing Reiki, Reiki, Reiki. Like, oh, maybe I should go find a Reiki practitioner. Or like maybe I keep like somatic breath work keeps coming up. Maybe I should find one of them. Just start somewhere and just notice what you notice. Notice what shifts, notice what messages. What happens is when you come into this more relaxed, reset nervous system state, you start getting a lot more clear guidance and feedback. So if you're posing a question like, what should I do for my back pain? And then you put yourself into this environment where you can really tap in and relax without getting too woo. Like just being in that relaxed state, you're going to have answers start coming to you. You know, you can do this through prayer and meditation. To me, prayer is asking and meditation is listening. Certainly, we all do some combination of these things, I would hope. So just anything that, again, is settling you down. But they are all very gentle modalities. You know, they're not going to cause harm. They're only going to have upside. They're all going to work unless you actively block it. You can say, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm open to trying and it will work. And what I'm saying with work is it will balance your systems and harmonize your energetic systems. It will clear blocks that are preventing you from either feeling, let me put this a different way. The blocks can be physical, emotional, or chemical, which manifest energetically. So what's happening is that when you have just any kind of distress beyond the physical and emotional, but if you just like, let's just say you're just feeling really disconnected, you feel like people aren't hearing what you have to say, maybe you're feeling like you're just really having trouble moving forward, you know, and you're just, these are all things that are caused by blocks. So any kind of energy healing modality is going to start releasing those, clearing the pathways so that things can move, get to where they need to be. And at a minimum, you're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel like a weight is lifted. That's the number one thing that people say to me when they get up is like they feel like their posture is better. They can breathe more deeply. They feel grounded and connected. And they just, you know, some people like that chatter, that incessant chatter just completely goes away.
Thanks for listening to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Work. If something resonated, share the episode and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, clarity isn't something you find, it's something you practice. And getting paid to practice life beats working to get paid.